All right. We're done talking about the NBA. Now we're going to talk about the one thing that matters.
The thing that puts butts in the seats, baby.
The Clutch City crew. Boo, 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 boo. Like the fuse. Rockets Roundup. Brought to you by James Piercy's Twitter account. Okay. This is the Rockets Roundup. And our first topic is going to be the only topic that actually matters for this entire fucking franchise for the next 2 years or so. Until it's either proven that he's not a bust, but like until like what his NBA future is determined. Jalen Green is leveling up this season.
Woo!
He had one game against the Nuggets where he actually looked really good as like kind of a playmaker using his penetration and just scoring threat to make good passes and set teammates up, which I thought was like a really good sign. He hasn't done that much. He hasn't been asked to do that much. I kind of wish they would ask him to do that a lot more, because I think if that skill really develops, it takes a ton of pressure off of the scoring, because we've talked about this ad nauseum. If all you do is score, you have to be so fucking good at it to be an elite NBA player that it's almost like, it's crazy to say this, but like if you're a 30-point per game scorer, it doesn't actually mean you're like one of the top 15 players in the league, which is crazy. It's
True, though.
crazy.
Well,
It's
I mean, we just saw
crazy.
that with Brad Beal. He was scoring
Yeah.
30 points a game, 2 seasons ago?
Yeah.
Was that last season even? He didn't make the
No,
All-Star
no,
team.
no,
Maybe
no,
it
no.
was
It
2
was
years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like scoring 30 points per game, like, doesn't make you an elite offensive option unless like you're just a crazy 3-point shooter and your gravity is absurd. But like you really need to be able to like play make or defend if you're a 30-point per game scorer in this day and age to be an elite player. So what are some of your thoughts on Jalen Green? Because I really liked what I've seen, and it feels like he's figured out that he doesn't just need to try to get layups and doesn't just need to hit step back threes or 3-pointers. Like it feels like he realized like the spaces in between, he can be dangerous, and he needs to take advantage of those because teams are going to give him those shots. And if they're going to give it to you, take it.
Yeah, you're right. We talked about several times throughout the year how he'd been a 2-level scorer, really, right? All
Yeah.
of his field goal attempts came pretty much like in the restricted area or from 3-point range. And the general consensus was like, well, the kid needs a mid-range game. He needs a floater. He needs a turnaround, whatever. Starting to look like he actually always had that, and he just maybe wasn't confident to use it, or maybe he was going for home run plays because he wasn't really getting a lot of touches. It's hard to explain what was happening, but all of a sudden he's willing to do things in the mid range, and it's paying dividends. Obviously, he's also got better floor vision than I expected, which is a really exciting development. He's not. I don't think he's probably ever going to be like an elite passer, but he makes good reads. He's a willing passer. He's selfless, more selfless than I expected him to be, and he's a pretty capable passer. Like his passes are accurate and timely and solid. I think sometimes he can put a little more mustard on them. You know, a little more. His passes are a little bit soft sometimes, but
Yeah, he needs a little more abracadabra, razzle-matazz, Orlando, Orlando,
yeah,
Orlando Magic. He just needs a little bit more of that on his passing. Um,
yeah. The unofficial above the break theme song.
I wish it was my actual theme song. So you'll like this. You'll like this. You want to hear this? Over his past 17 games, he's averaging 17.7 points per game on 45.5% field goal shooting and 35.6% 3-point shooting on 7 attempts. So basically half of his attempts are coming from 3-point range. So that means that 45% field goal percentage means like his 2-point field goal percentage is above 50%. And he's at 35% from 3-point range. Those are both really good numbers. He's getting 3.6 free throw attempts for a guy that's taking 6.9 2-point attempts per game. That's a pretty healthy margin. So he's getting, so like, this is the thing that excited me most about Jalen Green's profile early on in his career. And you're going to like some of these comparisons I found. There is basically no one in the NBA that combines his 3-point attempt rate and free throw attempt rate. We're talking about guys that are in that category, like James Harden type players, Damian Lillard type players, right? The ability to get free throws and take a fuckload of threes is really hard because, as we all know, not that many fouls on 3-point attempts. So that part of his profile was great. It was just like the shots weren't going in. For me, I think he can be statistically a good passer, too great passer. Not that he will be a good too great passer, but that statistically those numbers will pop for the simple reason it's like if you are as good as he is at getting to the rim, beating the first defender and putting pressure on defenders and making it look like you're going to score, passing lanes will open up.
Yeah.
And he's good. It's going to be those things like he could average like 8 assists a game, making just easy passes.
Yeah.
Because I think he's that gifted at breaking guys down. And obviously, if the shot stays consistent, we're talking about a guy who can be really good. The next step for me is just like give him like you're the point guard. Like he just needs to be the point guard off and on for the rest of the season because I want to see what does that do to his mindset? Because I think some guys when they're given that responsibility, they go crazy. They either like I got to pass, I got to set people up, or they just go I got the ball. I'm just going to do a bunch of crazy dumb shit.
Yeah, right. We saw that I think that's what's happened with Kevin Porter Jr. throughout the season. Is like, okay, you're the point guard, and I think what it triggered something in his head where he's like you're saying, like, okay, well then I need to make passes, and then I think there's a point in the year where he realized like, well, I'm not really an exceptional passer, so I just need to get buckets. But then that kind of stymied the overall offense, and so then he's like, I don't know what to do. Maybe I'm not a point guard, and he's made some progress, but ultimately, as the experiment draws to a close, I think we had to conclude that Kevin Porter Jr. is probably not the starting point guard of the future. Like we're almost done here. He's had some better stretches of the year, but at the same time, like in his last game, dude, he had like 22 points and 1 assist. It's like so. What's making him a point guard by any stretch? Like he's a ball handler. He's a ball handler.
He's the point guard because someone needs to bring the ball up the court and start the offense. And by doing that, you will get a few assists a game. And I just don't think he adds to that assist total enough consistently for you being like, this guy's the playmaking hub. And his ability to score at the rim has been so poor this year. Which is something that's weird because I always thought that would be like his calling card. He's morphed into a really strange player. He's become not the player that he once was, and he is still an enigma. And I don't think the Rockets should invest a ton of resources and time into figuring out that when you have Jalen Green, who's clearly can do most of the things he does, but just better and younger.
Yeah,
and under contract for longer. Like
that's right. It's been a roller coaster for me this year with Kevin Porter Jr. There have been times I've been really low on him and times I've been really high on him.
I know.
Yeah.
And I've just been low the entire fucking time.
You've been low the whole time, yeah. As we get to the end of the season, I'm more low than I am high, especially on him as our starting point guard. I still believe in him as a really strong sixth man.
I think he's got a role as like a useful player on a good team. I think he can get to that point. I just look like he ain't gonna be what you need him to be in that role to be a good team. And that's fine because there's like maybe 15, 20 guys in the league that you can kind of do that with.
Yeah.
It's and that includes Jokic in that category, right? Like I'm not even just talking about guards. I'm about like it's like pure players.
It's like and now we're talking about Kevin Porter Jr., but that's fine.
It's fine. It's Rockets Roundup.
It's the Rockets Roundup.
Rockets Roundup.
It was always an experiment. It's kind of like, to me, it's like if you said like, oh man, maybe whipped cream would be really good on mac and cheese, And it's like, then you try it and it's not good. You don't want to say, well, maybe it'll be good tomorrow night. Maybe it'll be good the next night, Like I swear to God, I'm going to enjoy a fucking mac and cheese with whipped cream on it at some point. Eventually you got to go, okay, you know what? This is not a thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's fine. And I just think attaching so much faith into a player being good at a certain position is just crazy. What we've learned about in the modern NBA is that like positional distinctions don't really matter. You just want to find a role where a guy can be good.
Yep.
And that avenue still exists for Kevin Porter Jr., but it is clear it's not, one of the things that he's not going to be great at is being the lead ball handler and offensive engine of a good team. And that's fucking fine because once again, there's like basically 20 guys where you can say that. Like fucking Russell Westbrook you can't even say that about him anymore, right? Like we're not insulting someone. We're simply saying, hey, for this guy to maximize their NBA career, they're going to have a slightly different role than the Rockets have been giving them. And the proof is in the pudding. The Rockets offense fucking stinks. Like it's not like there's like some underlying reason why we should have optimism. Their offense fucking stinks, and they employ, for all of his flaws, Christian Wood, who's a pretty good offensive player, and Eric Gordon, who's a pretty good offensive player, and Gary Bird, who's a pretty good offensive player. It's not like there aren't actual offensive talented players on the team, but they still stink. They still stink.
Yeah, like the defense stinks as it should, but you're right. The offense, if Kevin Porter Jr. was a bona fide point guard, we would probably have like, I don't know, the 19th, 18th offense or something. You know, we're gonna have the worst defense in the league no matter what. But if it was a fact that Kevin Porter Jr. was a absolute, like, this is a guy who can be your starting point guard for the future, yeah, we'd probably be like a middling offensive team.
Okay, I need to make a joke about Christian Wood. So people out here call him Christian Wood the Cross. And it's a great nickname because he does physically resemble a cross with his arms stretched out wide. He doesn't look like Jesus at the cross. Jesus would never be that selfish on a basketball court. I can tell you that much.
No.
From what I
No.
understand about religion, he would never have been that
To
selfish.
my knowledge of the Bible, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we got to stop calling Christian Wood the cross. That's giving him too much of that holy goodness. I'm starting a petition. Christian Wood's new nickname is the Twig, because that's what he is. He is a fucking twig out there. And it carries me to my next question, James. If Christian Wood can't play the 5, because we've seen it all season, the defense at the 5 just it's not good enough for what he brings on offense. He's not so elite at offense that you can live with whatever the fuck he's doing on defense, which is mainly getting dogged. But if he can't play the 5, is he even really a useful NBA player?
Yeah. It's funny. I had a very relevant conversation earlier with our mutual friend, Far West Tweets, one Drew Larson, yeah, who is higher on Christian Wood than me or you or a lot. And like, I my answer is sure. If he was willing to be like a stretch 4 / occasional small ball 5, probably a reserve, you know, he could be a valuable NBA player, right? If his entire role was like, this is a guy that's 6'10" who can hit 36 or 7% of his threes, so he finds a place in the rotation, you know, for $8, $9, $10 a year, like he could be a good player. My issue is that he just so clearly wants to be so much more than that. And that's what ironically depresses his value.
I don't think he wants to. I think he believes. And that's the thing. He
Yeah.
believes he's more than that. It's not that he wants to get to that point. It's that he believes he's already there.
Exactly.
And like, I think that's actually the most frustrating part is it's like, yo, like you could be better if you didn't believe that you were better.
Yeah.
And like, that's like a very frustrating thing to see with athletes. The thing that I've always thought with him watching him play center is, you know how there's guys that are like 7 feet tall with like 7'6" wingspans, and then there's like 6'9" guys with like 7'3" wingspans, right? Like those guys play up to their size, and the 6'9" guy plays a bit bigger because his wingspan's so long and he's really strong. Christian Wood plays so much smaller than his listed height. Like I don't need to hear that he's 6'10". He's a center, bro. He plays like he's 6'7".
Yeah.
Right. And like, that's the problem. If he was 6'10" and played like he was 7 feet tall, there would be no issue, but he plays smaller than he is. Part of it's the strength, part of it's the intensity, part of it's, you know, like maybe the wingspan isn't what we thought, or I don't even know what the fuck it is, but like maybe the wingspan is just not good enough.
The intensity though. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, you know, Draymond Green, people are like, oh, like he's a great small ball center. No, he's a fucking great center because he's 6'8", 6'6" range with like a 7-foot wingspan, and he's strong as fuck, and he plays like he's 7'9" down in the post. Rudy Gobert is like 7'2" or whatever the fuck he is with like a 7'6" wingspan. He plays like he's 12 feet tall. Like those guys play bigger than they are, and they're already big people. Christian Wood's a big dude, but he plays small. And like I think this problem is like PJ Tucker is the complete opposite. 6'5", but he plays 7 feet tall. I'd rather have him guarding dudes in the post than fucking Christian Wood. Maybe not,
Well, I mean,
but
to
like,
that point, like more often than not, Jay Sean Tate is checking the big on the other team because Wood won't do it, right? So I mean, that's even worse than PJ Tucker, right? I think the Draymond Green comparison is particularly instructive, or Tucker, in that both of those guys are undersized for the position, even more so than Wood in terms of like height and wingspan, but they're strong, and most importantly they're intense and effortful, and they're not gonna take it lying down, like Joel Embiid is probably gonna beat Draymond Green, but Dre's not gonna let him,
yeah, he's not
yeah,
saving his energy so he can go average 17 and 11.
yeah, exactly.
Like, because
So
that's the biggest thing Christian Wood is. Like, you watch him play defense and it's like, oh, like, you think you need to save energy because you're the number one option on
yeah,
offense. Like, bro, you're the number
yeah,
one
you
option
should.
on the third worst offense in the league. You ain't no number one fucking option. Like, shut up. Like,
No, you're not a number one option caliber player. I really think his ideal role in the league is like Davis Bertans, and like not quite as good of a shooter, but a little better at occasionally self-creating, like when he's got a third string matchup on him, but roughly about a Davis Bertans level player.
yeah, he's someone that it's like, he really, like, if he was playing next to two really good players, we'd be like, Christian Wood's really, really good. And when he's the best player, you're like, oh fuck. Like, he just, because there are guys that understand their limitations and understand what leads to winning. And Christian Wood is clearly not a player that understands those two things. And part of it might just be he looks around the roster and he's like, this is the only way for us to compete. Christian, I hate to break it to you. There is no way the Rockets are competing this year. That was like
No,
literally the point of this season, is like they weren't going to compete. And you doing your ISO bullshit isn't going to like eke out a few extra wins. It actually ekes out a few extra losses, which,
it does. Exactly. Dude, I think we would have two more wins this year if we just ran it through Jalen Green from the beginning, which I'm not even advocating for. But like in theory, I can't see that this Christian Wood thing, it's like, bro, we're not competing. So if you think this is the way for us to compete, like, okay, we're the worst team in the conference. It's pretty obviously not working.
yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough. Being on a shitty team is tough, right? Like, because guys that are bad, or not bad, guys that are good are asked to be great. Guys that are bad are asked to be good. And it just doesn't fucking work. And, like, you need a guy, presumably. And I think this is the issue with Silas's offense more so. It's like his offense is predicated on someone being good at basketball at a level that the Rockets don't really have right now. Like, you can see flashes from Jalen Green and flashes from Kevin Porter Jr. where they look really good, but it's like, for this offense to consistently work, you fucking need Luka Doncic. You need fucking James Harden. You need someone that you can be like, here's the rock.
Yeah.
You're going to generate a fuckload of points, and these guys are going to like orbit around you, and it's going to be great. And Christian Wood's thinking he's like, I am the center of the offense. And it's like, dude, just be a tertiary part, be on a shitty team. Instead of being the 27th ranked offense, you guys will be the 26th or 25th ranked offense. You're helping the team be a little bit better. But you doing this is just, you just watch it, and it's like, you can just see the guys as soon as he gets the ball go, I ain't getting the ball. He's going to shoot,
Yeah.
and he's going to miss, and he's not going to run back, and he's going to look at the ref, and he's going to be like, hey, man, why am I not getting the superstar calls? And the refs look at him like, bro, I don't even know the fuck you are. What's your
Yeah.
like?
Yeah. No, I know it has. I think he really has like a deflating effect on the whole team. It's true. Like, even though I think guys kind of like him on a personal level, like reports are that he recently rented out a theater so everybody could go see the Batman, which we've been plugging amply on this episode. Like, I don't think it's even interpersonal. I think it's literally on court basketball stuff. Like, yeah, like you're right. Jalen Green sees that Wood has the ball and he goes, I might as well just get to the corner. Maybe next possession.
Maybe if
And
he
then
gets triple teamed, he'll pass it.
yeah, exactly. And on defense, I think guys go, well, we don't have rim protection, so if I get beat, like there's no, like it's just demotivating.
Yeah, and that's why I really wish they were running Şengün a bit more. Apparently, there's some conditioning concerns with him, and there's the
Yeah,
fouls. But like, Şengün fouls a lot because the Rockets' perimeter defense is so
yeah.
fucking bad that he's like trying to cover two
Always
people.
contesting
and and he tries to contest it. And like, yeah, he fouls it, but like he actually tries to stop people from fucking scoring. And Christian Wood's kind of like, oh, that guy didn't do his job. I'm not going to do mine.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's like kind of that like vibe. And it's like, dude, Wood, just foul the fuck out. You got Alpi backing you up. Like, it's point. Like, you know, and like that to me is the thing is that it's like, and because this is kind of like, I also think like Şengün and Wood are just so different players. Şengün is like, give me the ball. I'm going to get in the post, bully fucking people, get layups, get free throws, kind of hit my free throws. You know, get the ball in the high post, make passes. And as soon as he's in the game, and as soon as he touches the ball, guys go, if I do something smart, he's going to reward me. And like, that's why I love great passers, is because it gets everyone to be like, you can't, you play pickup. Like, you know, when that guy, as soon as he gets the ball, you're like, well, he's just going to try to score. You don't fucking move off ball. You might like kind of like stand around the perimeter and like provide spacing, and maybe you'll get a catch and shoot opportunity, but you're not going to make a good cut. Cause it's like, I'm not fucking running for no reason. And like, that's the problem with Wood. You're running for no reason on offense. And then on defense, it's just like, yo, like, just fucking try to stop them, even if you're gonna foul out. Like, because that's why Şengün's fouling out. It's because he's trying way too fucking hard. Like, he needs to learn, he needs to take notes from Christian Wood's defense on how not to try a bit.
That's right. Let's bring it home, man.
All right. Yeah, no, I had big feelings. Big feelings. Man, you know, as a Wizards, I will say this. Kristaps Porzingis' first game for the Wizards looked really good. He just needs to stay healthy and he can be a top 50 player. So pray for Porzingis's knee and back, or just pray for him. He needs to stay healthy.